Thanks a lot, Navi. And I must say that very difficult to talk about innovation in 8 minutes, which is what I was given. So I cheated a little and said, look, let me steal some themes from Navi, because Navi has already given you the landscape of it's not product, it's not service, it's not process, it's business model. And what I'll really do is tell you our own story, because not NASSCOM, because let me put on my company hat, which is my day job, and talk about what we do in Zensar, which makes us successful, and what almost made us fail, the failures of bad innovation or bad planning. I also owe a lot to my co-author of the book that we're writing on innovation, Shiva from TCS. So he's the guy who comes up with all these lateral ideas, because I always think of what makes innovation successful. And he actually came up with ideas on what makes innovation fail. So thank you, Shiva. So I'm going to really intersperse some very basic themes, which is really what comes from Shiva's mind, with some of the ideas that Navi gave you, and put it in a very practical context. So that's really what I'll try and do in the next 8 to 10 minutes. First of all, of course, I think Navi started off by saying that everybody talks about innovation. You open Business Standard, it's all innovation. You open Time Magazine, it's all innovation. When Bill Gates comes to India, he talks about innovation. When Sam Palmisano comes, he talks innovation. So it's almost like we discovered this word innovation in the last couple of years. Okay? And I think the first lesson is that, look, everybody says we're innovating. I mean, it's almost like when this whole concept called knowledge management came in, and every information management company quickly scurried around and rechristened themselves knowledge management. So everything we do saying that, look, we get up in the morning and we think of a new idea, it's innovation. And then there's this wonderful word called ecosystem, which is a different concept altogether. We'll come back to that. But I think the first learning that we have is, look, we can't keep talking about innovation, and we have to get around, get our hands dirty, step into the pool and say, let's innovate. Okay, so that's point number one. In our own example, I mean, this is really where Zensar is. I mean, Zensar is actually a 6-year-old story. And if you look at this chart, you'll say how boring it is. So I really pulled out from our latest corporate presentation, mind you, saying what do we do as a company? And we all think that we're innovating when we say today the big mantra in this industry is what we call IT BPO integration. Because we genuinely believe that a day will come when we will build systems, support systems, architect processes, run the processes, and let the American and European company do nothing but think. Okay, so I think that's really the goal of whole outsourcing. And if you really look at this slide, which is very typical, I just picked out our own slide, but it's typical of anything you'll see in most IT services presentations today. And this is something that, I mean, got us from a loss-making company 5 years back to some level of success, because obviously, I mean, the theme is that if you are in the services business and you have customers who are Fortune 500, you have to make money, right? How much money you make, whether it's 10% profit, 30% profit, 40% profit, depends on how long you've been in the business. But this is the theme which worries a lot of us. In fact, the reason why I run the NASSCOM Innovation Forum is that all of us know that somewhere down the line there's a wall waiting to hit us. That wall of costs going much faster than rates from customers. And we all know that unless you do something differently, and again we'll come back to product, process, service, etc., that's really the big issue. So this is the first point, that everybody has an idea. I mean, if you go around to the 1,600 people in this conference and say, what should the Indian IT industry do to continue to be successful? You may not get 1,600 ideas, but you'll probably get 1,000 ideas at least. Okay? So we said, look, even when we went around and asked our people, we said, look, everybody comes up with an idea. We should be doing this. You know, XYZ, Accenture does this, TCS does this. Why don't we do this, etc. So we said, let's forget about the idea. And this is again thanks to Shiva. And he said, look, let's not worry about ideas. There are enough ideas floating around in this country. Let's ask what is the problem. And the problem is very obvious, and I'm just kind of oversimplifying it to make a point. The problem really has been, always has been, that the thing we're all so proud of in this industry, that we are wonderful programmers who cost maybe whatever, 1/3 of what it costs in the US, we have quality standards, we have XYZ, etc. But the real problem is that the programmers themselves are the problem. Because you have programmers, they write programs, they create bugs, you have more programmers who do the testing, who add more bugs, and so on and so forth. So we said one problem could be, and I'm saying it in this room, if I said it to my team outside, they'd lynch me. Because, I mean, obviously we built an industry of programmers. Okay? So we said that if you take the traditional system development lifecycle analysis and design and development and testing and deployment, and you really look at all this, it's a fact, whether we'll admit it publicly or not, that we spend not as much time on analysis and design as we should. We spend a hell of a lot of time on programming, and then we test the hell out of the system. Okay, so one of the problems that we faced was, can we, is it arguable? I mean, is it even conceivable? Like John F. Kennedy once said, we must put a man on the moon in 10 years' time. And one of our problem statement was, is it possible that within 10 years, we will only employ architects and no programmers? you could call this product innovation. The minute you push this as product innovation, this is the biggest failure because you've got this wonderful thing, and I won't get into details, but this is this fully automated method of software development, which we have kind of done, which a lot of other companies are doing. So there's nothing new about this, because this was new maybe 10 years ago. But today, most people are automating the generation of .NET or Java or whatever else. Okay? The reason it raises more problems, and the reason why if you leave it here, it's bound to fail, is you are threatening status quo. And I said that earlier. I mean, on one hand, I mean, when we started doing this, we had 1,000 programmers. And we went to these great guys who have built their entire livelihood saying, I am this absolutely crafty little Java programmer. And we told them, look, I mean, your skills are completely obsolete. We're going to make you an architect, and you don't need to do Java programming anymore. It was almost designed to fail. So one of the big lessons we learned was, don't present what you think is God's gift to mankind in terms of a great new technology to people who are themselves builders of technology. And that's why I thank Navi, because his idea is so perfect that you can't leave it at a product or a great idea level. You have to move it to the next level, which is really process. So if you look at what we did, so now I'm getting problems with security updates. So basically we said that, look, I mean, this is the old Newton concept. You got this great idea, you're sitting back and you're waiting for the apple to fall from the tree. And the apple, of course, is the customer who will drop dollars or pounds or yen or whatever you have on this. So then we said the next logical thing, which is where product innovation moves to process innovation, is you got to go out and tell people, look, if you have this great collaborative, generative technology that is so much in vogue today, how do you make it work? And what we really did over the last 2 years, which is really why today we are, I mean, extremely profitable and revenues going through the roof, is very simple. We said, let's just take this disaggregated model of software development, which is our core innovation, if you call it a product, and said, let's take it around the globe. So today, for instance, we have a center in Gdańsk in Poland, okay, who have great guys doing design. We're setting up something in Sao Paulo in Brazil, where any financial problem is actually given to them. So, and all these guys are connected through the traditional ERP method. So the same model of saying that, look, you can do analysis separately, design separately, programming separately, testing separately. We're currently doing a testing of a brand new system out in Shenzhen in China. The point I'm making is, today suddenly it no longer matters where the activity is. And you won't see a single programmer in the system, what we are now calling design transformation. If you do a first-class design, irrespective of who does it, sitting at home, sitting in a campus, sitting in Gdańsk, sitting in Hyderabad, you still have something which can then generate code. And then the code is something you can trust because you spent a lot more time on the design that maybe you did in the past. So this is the second point. Suddenly the innovation, as I've written here, comes to life. And you say, oh my God, here is a method of taking product innovation and getting the process to work. Then when we looked back, and this is like as recently as 3-4 months back, and we said, look, suddenly it seems to be working. Suddenly we have this collaborative workforce coming in, and we said, and this is where the business model idea is so important. So we said, what is the business model we are driving at today? Is this a new mantra for technology, for innovation, for everything else? Or is it just a recognition of the fact there are real problems out in the world, and we need to solve them by innovations like this? So to very quickly do this, we said, let's understand what we are trying to do, because if you don't understand initial successes in innovation, you can never scale it. And the VCs won't help you to understand your own success. I mean, it has to be through introspection. It has to be to say what is really happening here. And our own first level on what is happening here is that we're saying that this is a kind of trend we see the industry moving towards. Okay, that we're all very proud of India's sourcing. We talked about the 10 times growth in the industry yesterday. But it is a fact that sooner or later it's going to move to global sourcing. Whether it's because of jobs retention in various countries, whether it's because of jobs transformation, unless you have inclusive transformation in this industry, just outsourcing to India will not continue forever. So this is one understanding of the new business model. The second is we said that this is something you, again hear jargon all over the place, that you can't just be a service provider. You can't be waiting for the customer to say, I want this, 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 and this, and a bit of this. But much more systems integration, much more customer-led innovation is what we're looking at.